are put in place since you have been in office. We want you to outline a few of
Yeah.
those so that the people can know what is
Um,
different.
well, we had a new constitution that's in place. I mean, that was being driven from the board level, but that's in place now. Um, you'd have seen that I was very transparent with the general secretary's report. I sent it out not just to the delegates, but to the media overall, including the financial statements. Um, we have the procurement policy, a new procurement policy that has been put in place and accepted by FIFA. And then on a board meeting this month, we're going to be looking at passing two additional policies, which is the sexual harassment policy and also the whistleblower policy. There's one more policy that we're looking at. The name slips me right now. I think it's the safety policy. Um, and also what we're going to be looking at in maybe a month or two is the code of ethics that's going to guide behavior right across the organization. So those are the main policies we've put in place. But we've been doing some other things. I mean, working on projects in terms of trying to get project funding, working on ensuring that our finances are improved. Those are some of the main things. Looking at the internal structure in terms of the staffing arrangement, their effectiveness, putting the budget in place for 2023, which we hope to get approved by the board on the 21st, and also looking at strategic objectives for the JFF. And there's been a lot of planning because the next 6 months are going to be very, very busy in terms of football activities.
All right. You made mention of two things that jumped out at me, Sir Chung. The whistleblower policy and the sexual harassment policy.
Yeah.
Um, is there or are there situations where these issues came up and they are known why policies had to be put in place? And while
Well,
answering that, I want you to elaborate on both of them so that we can have an understanding. Why are these policies implemented and what are they?
all right. The reason why I implemented them is because I believe that every organization, um, especially when you're talking about dealing with children in an organization, um, who are a weaker set of people, right? They have less power than adults. They have to have that in place. So I look at it, for example, that if I have a daughter or a son who is going to play football, right? I want to know that they're going into a secure environment, right? And sexual harassment is one of the big things that comes to the fore. So I said, in order for us to protect the children, because there are children under 15, under 17, under 20, there are children.
Mm-hmm.
We need to ensure that we have the policy and particular sexual harassment policy in place. Because as a parent, one of your biggest fears is that your child will be molested, right? And therefore, that sexual harassment policy will ensure that there are certain guidelines for persons to behave, right? Particularly as it relates to children, but also within the organization itself, the secretariat. You don't want the staff members to be exploited in that way and harassed. Um, so I thought that it was necessary to have that in place because this policy, the sexual harassment and the whistleblowing, is really creating equity in terms of everyone in the organization. So whether it is the person who is at the top, right, like myself, or the person who is the bearer, right? Everyone feels empowered to know that if you are going to be harassed or molested, you have the ability to report it and get action on it. So the sexual harassment is very straightforward. The whistleblowing, what that does is that it allows people to, if they see any wrongdoing or anything that offends them in the organization, to report it without any fear of being any vindication, vindictiveness, sorry, or anything like that, right? So that's basically what it is. It gives them a safe place to report things that they think are wrong.
And does that affect internal people or both external and internal?
When you say internal, what you mean?
For example, if someone in the organization sees something and they decide to blow whistle, will that affect the individual's job or position in
No,
that
no, no. They have a
organization?
safe place, and that's why I say it's a safe place.
All right.
So we're gonna set up a body that or a person, multiple that they can go and report it, and it will be action. It might be setting up a body outside of the organization that they can report it to. But we're going to make sure that everyone feels safe in terms of reporting things that are wrong.
As in crime stop, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, something like that. Something like
Okay.
that.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Clear. So persons can feel assured that whenever they give some information, it will be protected. But what about, you know what? Let me leave that one because it might affect. What really sparked those seismic shifts that really came out through you being in the position now? Because I mean,
Um,
if it were there for so long and nobody, or we could say persons turned a blind eye to it, what basically causes sudden seismic shift?
that's just how I operate. I mean, even when I'm at NSWMA, those I put those policies in place, and that's just how I operate. I believe that persons must be protected. I believe that persons must not be, you mustn't fight against people because, they hold a position,
Mm-hmm.
and, doing it any other way is discriminatory, So that's just me. I just believe that, you know,
Okay.
and from my personal point of view, as I said, I think about my daughter,
Mm-hmm,
you know
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want her to be subject to that. I don't think that, one of the things I hate more than anything else is when people have power and abuse that power by abusing people. I hate it. I think everyone should be treated equitably, you know
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's just how I am, and therefore I thought that those things are things that are necessary for a modern organization.
Right, right. In terms of the players, will this sort of, I'm gonna use the term task force, protect the players? For example, if they see some injustice and they speak out against it in a manner that might not seem derogatory, will they be protected as well?
Of course, everybody will be protected. However, one of the things that these policies speak to is that if you maliciously, right, um, say something against somebody, then you can face disciplinary action, right? So it's persons with legitimate concerns, right? But if someone says something, said, boy, they don't like, they see, they tell a lie, that somebody's doing something, then obviously they have to face consequences for that. And the
Mm-hmm.
policies do address those.
Some amount of independence in terms
Yeah,
of
man, yeah,
the
man, yeah,
person.
man, yeah, man. So it's multiple options we would give people to report,
Okay.
right? It's not just one body, for example. We'd give people multiple options to report.